Hey there everyone, I'm Caroline Ogg. You might recognize me because I'm a Physics 141, 142, 121, and 122 tutor here at the Tilt Building on Mondays and Thursdays this semester. And I've noticed that a lot of people, especially if they're first starting out with physics, seem to get really stuck on vectors. So I figured I would just make this quick video to hopefully give you a little hint on starting with vectors so you don't feel so completely lost. So we're going to start out with what a vector actually is. So if you've seen a vector, it looks like this. It's sort of this nondescript line with an arrow at one end. And it usually has a name. I'm just going to call this one P. And yeah, so it's a very nondescript thing. But this can actually tell us so much about what's happening in the real world, in the problem, whatever. So every vector sort of has two things, what's called a magnitude and a direction. If you want to denote the magnitude, you use absolute value signs. So you always use your absolute values. This is going to be the magnitude, or how big is it. So that could be things like it's 7 meters, it's 4 newtons, it's 2 meters per second. You don't care that it's 20 degrees west-southwest, like, or the direction, none of that matters. All that matters is it's 7 newtons, whatever. The other part of it then obviously would be the direction, which we usually give a little hat. And it actually is called a hat. A lot of people will say, if you talk about IJK, it's I hat. So this is P hat. And this says, I don't care how big P is, but I want to point in the direction of P. So if you notice, I drew both on here and for the magnitude a little awkward looking arrow thing on top of P. That is to denote that it is a vector. If you just write this, a lot of people will assume that you mean the magnitude instead of the whole vector, and they're different. Obviously, because this one doesn't have direction, that one does. Some people draw full-on like an arrow. To me, that takes way too long, so I draw this little half arrow thing, and people can usually still know that I mean vector. So now that we kind of know what a vector is, I said that a vector has to have both magnitude and direction. So I'm gonna mention just a few types of quantities that would have vectors where we would use them a lot. So those include anything with magnitude and direction. The biggest one that you guys are gonna use in all 4 classes probably is force. Force has magnitude, it has direction. Other things would include things like displacement, velocity, acceleration. If you're in Physics 2, you're going to talk a lot about electric fields, which are usually abbreviated to E fields. Magnetic fields always have direction, which for some reason are B fields. But force, displacement, velocity, acceleration, these are the big 4. Momentum that's a P, like a lowercase p, because it can. But some things that don't get a vector are mass. That's just an M, right? It doesn't have a weird hat on it at all. Volume, distance, speed. So all of these things, no vectors. Don't try to use one. It won't work out very well. These things, vectors, you need them.